It's not necessarily that my intuition has led me astray. It's more like my intuition sometimes gets carried away and I need somebody to kind of bring me back to earth just for like 5 seconds so I could think it through a little bit more clearer. And then I can move on if it's like, yeah, actually, this still feels really good. Or, you know what, you're right. I think that was just like a wild hair that I had that day.
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women. My next guest is a multi-passionate entrepreneur who is dedicated to helping women achieve all their heart's desires. In 2021, Stephanie became a first-time mom and finally felt like she had it all and has been navigating how to manage it all ever since. Outside of running her 7-figure health and wellness practice, she helps other practitioners grow their clinics to 7 figures and beyond without sacrificing time with their families. When she's not coaching or podcasting, you can find her spending time with her family. In addition to that, she loves traveling, reading, and scheming up a new business idea. Now, Stephanie was one of those women, the trio of women that I talk about, who flew me down to Naples, Florida about 2 months ago. And we did a PR intensive. And I said, lady, you need to be on my show. While we were there, we were just jamming on stuff for the program that she's developed inside her business. So between her and her husband, as you'll hear on the show, they have 4 clinics. They have 4 chiropractic clinics on the East Coast of the US. And they have managed to come up with these processes to be able to very quickly make these brick and mortar health practices profitable. And people kept asking her, how do you do this? So she's created a program that helps health practitioners create a 7-figure business. I love her. She's a hustler, an incredible woman, incredible wife and mother. And I look forward to this chat with her today. Please welcome the incredibly talented Stephanie Wigner.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you. The last time we were chatting, we were both in Florida.
Yeah, we were in Naples having a great time and learning about PR.
Yeah. Yes. So you're one of the 3, the trio that I talk about. I actually had Callan on the show a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to watch her episode.
Yeah. And then we have Kinsey. So I'll get all you 3 on here. But what I loved about meeting all 3 of you is different industries completely, but the same drive and hustle and thirst for success. And that's what I admire about 3 of you, and especially you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that it's so fun how we all came to be and how we ended up working with you and finding you, who we wanted to be our PR strategist and help us kind of get our names out there. But I think in entrepreneurship, especially being women, most of us having families, it's really important to find those connections that you can jive with, that understand what you're going through and are going through it themselves, but aren't wanting to sacrifice their career just because they became a mom, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, especially as entrepreneurs and mothers, is we have to find those other women that have that same mentality too, because it's really hard having that conversation with your mom friends that maybe don't work or they stay at home or they have jobs, and it's just a different energy. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a totally different conversation though.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a different conversation. There's different struggles. There's different obstacles, especially juggling young children. There's some new things that come about with traveling, right? I was in Naples with the 3 of you and it was like, okay, I have to secure childcare. Is my husband going to be okay while I'm gone for a few days? And luckily I have a really supportive spouse. So it helps being able to go away and work on the things that light me up and get me excited.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the childcare thing. I mean, my husband's gotten a lot better, but I remember whenever we would travel, it was always like I'd have to deal with the house, packing their suitcase, all this stuff, and then eventually my suitcase. And I can't tell you how many times I forgot to pack underwear for myself or a bathing suit. And like, why? Everyone else has everything they could possibly need. And yet I'm the one that's forget my own needs. So
Right.
now I pack my stuff first all the time.
Yeah.
My stuff is always first because like realistically, the boys don't care what they wear.
Totally.
I do.
Totally. Yeah. My husband, I remember one time, it was like one of our first trips with the baby, and I was like really stressing that I had all of his things. And we were just going from Jersey to Naples. And I was just frantic, of course, and probably being a new mom. And he was like, babe, whatever we don't pack, we can buy there. And I was like, somebody just needed to tell me that so I could chill out a little bit. And it's like, that's true. Like if I don't pack his diapers or his wipes or something, like there is a Target there and we can get it there as well. So I was like, oh, that was a really nice perspective shift to be able to just like take a deep breath and enjoy the trip, you know?
Yeah. My parents, for some reason, they taught me when traveling is pack everything you could possibly need. And I will say this though, when going through airports, especially with younger kids, is you do need that extra stuff. You do need the extra diapers, wipes, change of clothes, snacks, entertainment, because there's delays on flights, there's delays in airports, and you need that stuff. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, you can buy it when you arrive. And the same can be true for business. You don't always have to be prepared.
You can figure it out as you go. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, who has it figured out anyway, right? You jump that parachute and you build it on the way down.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, perfect segue into learning about you. What do you do and why do you do it?
Yeah. So I am a chiropractor by trade, but I've recently, in the last couple of years, transitioned to being a consultant for other wellness practitioners. And the reason I wanted to dive into consulting was I was having a good amount of success in my brick and mortar clinic. And I realized that some of my colleagues were not. They were really struggling. They didn't know how to attract their ideal clients. They were looking for ways to build their practice, but didn't really have that strategy in place to do it. And to me, chiropractic is so near and dear to my heart that I know that more people that are under chiropractic care, the world's going to be a healthier place. But I also know that the more chiropractors that have some of that financial freedom or that success that they desire, the more that they're going to be able to support their families and they're going to have more fulfilled lives too. And so I think I got into consulting because of chiropractic, and I've worked with a variety of different practitioners, not only chiropractors, but it's being able to empower them in order to build the practice and the life that they want. Again, it comes back to that. Like, you don't have to sacrifice having a beautiful practice just because you don't want to work 80 hours a week. You could work 25, 30 hours a week and still have a very beautiful practice that lights you up and produces a good lifestyle for yourself.
Yeah. And you've kind of figured it out. So you have, is it 2 practices now?
Yeah. So I have 2 practices on the East Coast, and then my husband has 2 practices as well. So collectively we manage 4 practices right now.
Wow. Okay. And then so you started one and then you built that up.
So I started my first practice and I built that up. And what happened with the second one was I had an amazing opportunity because I specialize in prenatal and pediatric. I had an amazing opportunity to open another location above a midwifery group. And so it was one of those opportunities kind of where the universe is knocking and they're like, hey, are you going to seize this opportunity or not? And if you would have asked me at the time, I had just opened my first practice 15 months before that. So I was by no means looking to open a second practice, but it was one of those things where I was like, I know if I don't do this and I don't seize this opportunity, I'm going to regret it. And so I'm just kind of going to figure it out as I go. And it ended up working out.
I love it. It's like manifestation.
Yeah, I love manifesting.
Yeah. And I mean, whether or not you believe in it, I do. But my sister opened a pediatric physiotherapy clinic. And she'd been dreaming about this for years. And she managed to find a great business partner who was more the doer of the business stuff. And they found this perfect spot. And she's like, well, I need to do it now because the spot was available. And the environment is so important, especially when you're going into a store and you're providing healthcare services to people. They need to feel good, the space that they're in. So my sister has like floor to ceiling windows and colorful walls and like this jungle gym. So she made it exciting for kids to show up to, because knowing that why they're there can be difficult and challenging.
Totally. And that's one of the things with our offices is like, we didn't want it to feel like a doctor's office. We wanted it to feel like a home or a family member's house, right? So like we have all neutral tones and we have very modern aesthetics, I guess you would say, designed to like, you just want to come in and be calm. Because for a lot of our families, it's not calm at home, right? You've had toddlers before, like things are crazy. And so when you come into our office, we really want to set the tone. Like, this is going to be calm. It's going to be relaxing. And that's one thing that we've been able to do in both of our practices. But yeah, I think being open to receiving things that come to you is so important, because you might not even know what it's going to look like, right? It's kind of that discussion that we have in entrepreneurship. Like, you don't have to know the how, you just have to get started, and the how is going to reveal itself.
It always does. Like for me, I was on a sales call, March, April, May, like 3 and a bit, not even 4 months ago. I guess it was a sales call gone bad, but not really. It was a sales call like gone good. What happened was a friend of mine was launching his book and he wanted to hire me to help him do PR for his book because I did such a great job with my husband's book. He's like, can we just replicate that? And I said, sure, I'll put my package together and I'll explain to you how the process works and how much it cost. And when he read it, he thought because it's a 6-month agreement, he thought that the agreement total, it was $3,000, I think, a month. He thought it was for the whole 6 months. And I go, yeah, no, it's $3,000 a month. He's like, oh my gosh, Renee, I'm so sorry. Because I put the agreement together. He goes, I just don't have the budget for that right now. But how else can we work together? I said, oh, well, the best thing I could do for you really is, do you have a VA? He goes, yeah. I go, the best thing I could do for you is to create your strategy, put the media list together, tell you how to do it, and train you and your VA, and then she or he can execute on it. And he goes, perfect. How much is that? And I'm like, I don't know how much. And I managed to come up with the price. And first time is always so painful because you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I figured this out. If I was new to PR, what would I need to know? And I took 12 years of experience of the wins, the losses, the lessons learned. And I put it into this PR manual that is now an ongoing SOP. So standard operating procedure for his company. And that he can go in and execute on it anytime. And I was like, this is perfect. And I was like, I can just keep selling this. And I did. And I kept selling it and I made it better and better every single time. I get customer feedback. They have questions. Any question they had becomes a new section in the manual. And every time it gets better and better, the price goes up and up and up. It's like, we don't really have a formula for figuring out pricing, but we also know our value. And at the end of the day, it's like, if I said, hey, if I could sell you 12 years of PR experience for $5,000 without having to hire an agency, and I'll teach you how to implement it, people are like, yes.
Absolutely. Give it to me now.
Right. So like coming back to that is like, you just kind of figure it out as you go, and you did it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just getting started, because there was so many things that you learn along the way, especially if you've never owned a brick and mortar. It's very different than having an online business. And there's different things that you have to consider, new obstacles. Your overhead's much higher than just getting started with the laptop, right? You have to have certain equipment, and you have to have staff, and you have leases, and a bunch of different things that could feel daunting at first, but it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. Like, you just have to start, and then it all starts to work together.
Yes. Like you start with the straight edge pieces and you build your outline and then you fill in the middle. What was one of the most challenging things you had to face in running your practice?
So I think one of my biggest challenges getting the practice off the ground, I was fresh out of school, had a bunch of student loan debt. I just thought I was going to be able to, my car was paid off, and I thought I was going to be able to go in with that as collateral and get a business loan. I thought they were going to be like, oh yeah, sure. Because I had a business plan together, and that's what they told us in school. As long as you have a business plan, you can find the funds. And I was like, oh, amazing. So I worked at my job for a little less than a year, and I quit, and I was like, cool, I'm going to go all in on myself. And I walked to the bank and I was like, here you go. Here's my car in case I don't pay back the loan. And they literally just laughed in my face, and they were like, no. Do you know how much debt you have? You don't even have a credit score. Like, that's not happening. And I was really only requesting $30,000. So my expenses were not high. I just needed a little bit of capital to get started. And I remember thinking at that point, like, okay, that was one bank, I'll go to another bank. And then I went to a second and a third, and they kept saying no. And I was like, this could be one of those moments in my career where I let it stop me, and I put my tail between my legs, so they say, and like, go find another job, right? And I was like, I know I'm not going to be happy if I do that. So not that it's business advice that I would give to anybody else, but I decided to open my practice on all credit cards, like 0% interest credit cards. I had 3 or 4 of them that I opened, and I got all of my equipment, my furniture, my computer, my monthly software. The only thing that I had to actually have cash for was the deposit on my lease for the building. And so I had enough saved in savings to be able to do that. I think it was like $3,500. And I was like, cool, I'm going to open, and I'm going to figure out a way to at least be profitable profitable in 12 months because that's how much I have 0% financing for these credit cards. And I think that I ended up being profitable, covered my expenses by month 2 and was profitable by month 3.
Wow. Talk about having a forcing function.
Yeah.
It's almost like, maybe there's some people out there where they need to do that, or else otherwise they would
It doesn't
be
happen.
accountable.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, don't take financial advice right now from Stephanie on how to start a business. But hey, we all have our stories, right? Some people, they take investments or they take loans from friends and family and whatever they know. It's like, you got to do what you can with what you have and what you know.
And I think that there's also something to be said about an entrepreneur that maybe has that entrepreneurial spirit. If you're willing to go all in on yourself, I very rarely have seen that not work out, right? And so it was one of those things where it was like, I know I can do this. I've put in the work for 8 years going to school and I keep succeeding. I don't want to let finances be something that holds me back when I have talked to several new doctors that are like, well, I just can't afford this or I can't afford that. And I'm like, that's part of your story. Can you get resourceful? Can you figure out how to afford it? You might not have the money, but somebody out there has the money. And if you can get them to believe in you and your mission, then anything is possible.
It's so true. And it's like, we use that as an excuse not to actually do something that's a little bit scary.
Totally. Yeah. It's just to keep you in your comfort zone.
Yeah. Like I just bought a new car that I'm paying for myself. And it's just actually, it's really, really scary because these are big monthly payments. And while I can do it, but it's like if I get maybe one little ripple in my business, there might be a month where that money might not be there for everything. But it's also the thing that's like, okay, these are the things that I have to pay for. I need to pay for my freelancers, for my employees, for payments on stuff. I need to get out of bed and get
totally. It forces you to show up, right?
100%.
And then thing too, Renee, is I just got a new car this year too. And I think about like how successful I feel driving that car. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm that girl. I'm doing it, you know? And so anytime I see that payment, I'm like, of course, like that's Stephanie 3.0, right? That she's the kind of person that drives a car like this. And same thing for you. Like it not only forces you out of your comfort zone a little bit, but I feel like it also forces us to step into that next version of ourselves that are driving that new car.
I love that perspective. Thank you. And now I'm still trying to figure out how to control my climate. But when I actually get beyond that,
you'll feel good.
I'm going to be like, I deserve to be in this car. I put in the work. So we got to think about where that shows up in business too, because this is just an example, but it could be like, maybe I need to invest in HubSpot. But HubSpot is really expensive. It's over $10,000 a year. But I know if I do that, then these things for my business will happen. And we have to also get creative about how we can pay for things because you can finance anything. Even if the payment terms are like 50% deposit and then the remainder due upon delivery, it's like maybe you can negotiate something else. Can I pay over 12 months?
Right. Yeah. There's so many ways to get creative.
And you did.
I did. I figured it out.
Put it all in credit card. So then after the first couple months and things were jiving, what was like the next big move you made in your business?
So the next big move definitely was bringing on my first team member, which was not my best move. I don't think your first hire is ever your best hire, but I learned a lot from that, right? And I was like, okay, here's what I need in an employee. Here's what I really need for somebody to take some things off my plate. And here's what I think I need to get to the next level. It didn't happen to be in that first hire, but I know now what I'm looking for. And then, like I had mentioned earlier, I ended up opening a satellite clinic after about 15 months of being in business. And everybody's like, oh my God, were you already at capacity? No, I was not at capacity 15 months into a brand new business, but I didn't want to let that opportunity pass me by. And so the nice thing about the satellite clinic is it was a little bit smaller. It was like no-brainer overhead, like all in with rent and utilities. It was around $1,000. And I'm like, I can't say no to this. I know that I'll be able to get the return on that investment, right? If I could just get in there and start getting my name out in that community as well. And that ended up working out. And so now today I have 2 other doctors that work with me in my clinic. And now one's able to be at each clinic. And it's like, yeah, this is how it was always supposed to be.
Wow. Okay. So essentially, you would have gone against the business advice of somebody great by saying you can't open a second location until you're at capacity with your first location.
Yep.
And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing things my way.
Yeah. That's kind of how I operate is like, well, I operate by intuition. I'm like, but this feels good. It wouldn't be in front of me if it wasn't meant for me. Right. And I love that about myself, but it definitely forces me to go against the grain more often than not. But yeah, exactly. And I had a business coach at the time that was like, Stephanie, that's not a good idea. And I was like, I know, I'm going to do it anyways.
Your intuition's very strong. And of the little time I've gotten to know you in the few days we hung out in Florida, I know that you're a woman that knows what she wants and is not afraid to ask for it.
Yes, you would be correct.
Because you were running the ship in terms of what we're doing, where we're going. And I was like, I love it because somebody has to take the lead here. However, has there ever been a time when your intuition failed you?
I wouldn't say that it failed me, but what I will say is also being that like super driven personality and kind of getting my mindset on something and wanting to do it. My husband is a godsend because with that personality, I want to open a new business every other day. I wake up and I'm like, oh, cool, we should do this. And a lot of the time he's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like, let's unpack that. Tell me how that's going to work. And I could come up with it, right? But it was literally, I think it was fall 2019. And I wanted to open a gym in our community. And I was like, I want it to be HIIT workouts. We have the connections. We could do this. I'll find a space. I was looking at spaces. And my husband was just like, Steph, how's that going to work if one of our trainers calls out and you're seeing patients and I'm seeing patients? Who's going to teach the class? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And he's like, and how's it going to work out? Like he had a list of things of I needed to figure out in order for us to move forward. And honestly, after I got through the end of the list, I was like, oh, that's exhausting. Like, I don't want that as a business model. And we were looking at profit margins of other gyms and stuff like that. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm really used to healthcare. Our profit margins are pretty good. I don't know about that for a gym, especially with all the variables, right? I don't really have a life that I could have a lot of variables in it. And so needless to say, it was like November of 2019. And I was like, all right, fine, I won't do it. And then the world shut down in 2020. And I was like, oh my God, you are a genius, Kyle. Thank you so much.
Wow.
So I think that it's not necessarily that my intuition has led me astray. It's more like my intuition sometimes gets carried away and I need somebody to kind of bring me back to earth just for like 5 seconds so I could think it through a little bit more clearer. And then I can move on if it's like, yeah, actually this still feels really good. Or you know what, you're right. I think that was just like a wild hair that I had that day.
So I recorded an episode about where it's called The Critical Thinker, 5 Characteristics of a Critical Thinker, which came out on June 8th. And I talk about this, where it's like we feel good about something as our intuition is saying yes, gut saying yes, but then we need to kind of step back for a second and put that critical thinking hat on. It's like, does this make sense? And sometimes you need that second party, third party to come in and question it and poke holes in it because they need you to actually realize the reality behind it. And you learned that lesson.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things too. Early in our relationship, we've been together 10 years now. I was like, oh my gosh, you're just a naysayer. You're just Mr. No, right? And the longer we've been together, the more I've grown to love that about him and actually see that he has that as a strength where I don't. I'm just like, yeah. Like, I can't wait till my son's old enough and we have a yes day because I'm like, I'm going to be giving him so many ideas for yes day. And we're just going to say yes to everything because that's kind of how I operate. I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. Let's see how it works out, right? But I'm so grateful for that strength that he has to be able to look at it from different angles when I sometimes get tunnel vision.
Okay, you wild thing, you can throw out that scruffy media pitch now. No more poring over bland pitches, wasting countless hours trying to piece your story together, wondering where to send it and who will even care. You know that landing media coverage is the #1 way to claim your seat at the table, and you're savvy enough to know it's time to bring in an expert. That's why we've created a system to take the guessing game of PR off your plate. One day, one investment, all the value. Get your PR strategy in hand sooner with our VIP days. It's strategy over breakfast and PR ready by dinner. Picture this. A world-class PR strategy created for your business by an award-winning publicist with 12 plus years of industry experience, and not just an upgraded version of a dull media kit, but a custom plan that's strategically crafted to capture the attention of journalists and influencers. No fill-in-the-blank, bare-bone type templates. Just a detailed roadmap to move your brand forward without the agency price. And this isn't a course. Here's exactly what you'll walk away with. All of this custom media kit, pitch angles for podcast, print, and TV, curated podcast list of over 50 vetted shows, 1 press release, confidence to pitch at your own pace, custom training videos to show you the way, plus a month of follow-up support with me. If you want in to this amazing VIP day, simply go to wewildwomen.com/VIP day, to either fill in the application if you're ready to do it or schedule a call if you want more. That's wewildwomen.com/VIP day. So I wrote a blog post a long time ago about the two different types of people in a relationship. There's a person that's like, someone goes to jump. You're like, how high? Cool. Where am I jumping? Let's go. Let's do this. The other person's like, well, it depends. Like, do you want 1 foot or 2 feet? Am I jumping straight up or to the side? Am I hopping? So there's like the person that's like, sounds great. Let's do it. And there's the other person that's like, but let me know about the details about the jump. And you're the kind of like,
Absolutely.
let's just dive in.
Let's just
roll up our
go.
sleeves. Let's not waste time looking at this stuff. Let's just do it.
Exactly. That is me to a T.
Okay. So in all of this, you guys have 4 clinics and the cutest little son with the blondest hair. How did you manage, and you're traveling all the time too, how do you manage running these businesses and then this new thing that you're creating as well as being an awesome mom?
So I definitely have no shame in saying that it requires a lot of help. I think if you just looked at my Instagram, you'd be like, oh my God, she does all of this on her own and she's amazing. And so that's why I make it a point to be like, no, I don't clean my own house. I pay somebody to do that, right? I don't clean my office. I pay somebody to clean the office. And I think for me, it's always been about delegating the things that don't really get me excited, that don't light me up, because I know that I am more impactful and a better version of myself when I only focus on the things that really get me excited. And that's how I think we're able to manage all the things that we do, is a lot of the stuff in our day-to-day life that doesn't require us gets delegated.
I love it. And you read my husband's book too, right?
Yep.
To buy back your time.
Yep, exactly. I want as much time back as I can get.
100%. So what was the first big thing that you had to delegate at home? And did you actually have any guilt wrapped around that?
Oh my gosh, so much guilt and so many limiting beliefs came to the surface as I start to delegate, because it's like, also, it's perceived that women do it all, right? Well, you can have a clean house and you can have laundry and you can make dinner and you could take care of the children and you can run a business. And it's like, I don't know that that narrative necessarily works in 2023, but I had so much guilt around not necessarily a house cleaner. This was super interesting. I was more than happy to hire a house cleaner. I was ready to delegate that. Like the minute we had an extra $100 in our account, I'm like, Kyle, we're getting a house cleaner. I don't care. We might be living paycheck to paycheck. We're getting a house cleaner. What got brought up for me more so was hiring a nanny. And so I think it was only one child, right? All of these limiting beliefs started coming up about like, what do you mean you can't handle one child? Why can't you handle one child? It's not that hard. You see everybody do it. They're stay-at-home moms. They have 3 or 4 children. And I was comparing myself to that to be like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me that I need a nanny? And it's funny because I brought the conversation up to the woman I was getting ready to hire as our first nanny. And she had known me well. We had known each other for a couple of years and we had similar values. So I knew she was going to be a great fit to come in to our home. And she was like, nobody says you need one, but if you can afford one, why wouldn't you make your life easier? And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so true. And I see it now with women. It's almost the more you sacrifice or the harder it is, the more noble you are, right? The more successful you are. I've had clients literally say to me, yeah, but this isn't hard. Who said being successful has to be hard? We've read about people's stories. We've read about their come ups. But if you didn't have a come up and you're naturally great at this, what's wrong with that? Right. And so when I had that perspective shift and I was like, okay, I don't need a nanny. I can definitely take care of my son. But if I could have a nanny come into the house, take him to the park for a couple hours so I could be on podcasts or I could be coaching clients and have somebody that could switch the laundry for me, like, why wouldn't I? That makes my life easier. And it was almost just giving myself that permission that life gets to be easier. That was the hardest thing for me initially.
So it's so interesting because North American culture is, from what I gather, is largely putting the onus on the mother. But when you talk about having a nanny or anything, or an au pair in Europe, everybody has it.
Totally.
It's a normal thing and they do all the things in the household. And so here it's just like, we've painted these women and I love it. We're all super women, but the expectations is so unrealistic that now you're seeing women that are burning out. They're depressed. They're not taking care of themselves. And guess what? They show up as worse mothers, as worse society members, as worse people in the community because they're tired, they're exhausted, they're not happy, they're not taking care of themselves because society's like, do it all and then you'll be noble. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no, and I knew right away, right? Because I knew there was a lot of consideration into going and starting our family because we were entrepreneurs and we know how much it takes to just juggle the business, let alone also having a newborn child join us. And it was like, okay, we are going to do this. How can we not feel stressed out when we start our family? And I think it's the best thing we did because now the time we spend together is truly enjoyable and we're not stressed out about a bunch of different other things because we're not trying to make sure our home's perfect and make sure the meals are perfect and all of these other little things that we could delegate. We're just focused on hanging out with our son, which is the best part about being a parent.
Yeah. And then all the other stuff's just kind of happening in the background.
Totally.
And so when you hired the cleaning lady, the nanny, did you have sort of like a standard operating procedure for them? How did you train them?
No, I kind of figured that out as I went too. So luckily, most of our cleaning ladies have been pretty self-sufficient. I think they do it for a living. So they probably know more than I do. They just ask us what products. And obviously we try to use more non-toxic stuff just with having the little one. And then with the nanny, she had nannied before. So she taught me a lot. I remember the first time she went to pack for that trip to Naples. And I was like, how did you get this suitcase so organized? Like, can I watch you next time? Can I watch you pack this suitcase so efficiently that you fit everything that he has absolutely needed into this? And it was like, that's the other thing. We don't have to be great at everything, right? There's definitely somebody out there who's better at organizing a home than I am. That's why they have entire shows on Netflix dedicated to organizing your home, right? There's somebody that has that strength out there. And I think that's been super freeing for me trying to juggle motherhood and entrepreneurship is like, I don't have to be perfect at everything and I'm not the best at everything. If I focus on loving my son, which is what I'm definitely best at, and if I focus on working with clients or patients that light me up, then I don't have to worry about being the best at anything else.
Oh my gosh, you said something that was so profound about this too, is like they end up, if you hire the right person, they end up teaching you more than you could ever possibly fathom. And now when I train new team members, I say, hey, this is our procedure. This is what's expected of you. But I want to say something here. Be very clear about this. Just because this is the way we do it doesn't mean it's the way it needs to be done. And if you can input any way and methods or frameworks to make this better into our systems, procedures, how we do stuff, please let me know. If it's going to save us time, if it's going to save us money, if it's going to make us world class. So most of the time we never think, oh my gosh, this person's going to teach us how to do things better.
I love that. I love that. It's so true. Like that's why we hired them. That's why we brought them on, right? Like there's a good chance they are better at it than we are, or that they have a unique insight that's going to make the whole system operate better.
Yeah, I know. I've always been, when I first started out as an entrepreneur and having a team, I was always ashamed to be like, oh my God, they did it better than me. Or I never thought about it that way. Why didn't I think of that? But you have to look at it as a team too. Like also in this instance, in the mommy guilt, because I know a lot of people are like, how do you do it? Or also the how dare you people? How dare you? Like, oh, such a pretentious thing to do. No. Here's what we're doing is we're offering employment. Somebody has a job and is getting paid because we're doing something we love to do. And when you are following your passions, everything's abundant, which includes money. And if you can earn that revenue, you can pay somebody else to do the stuff they love to do.
Yeah. And provided like that's one thing that I don't think that we realized on our way to entrepreneurship that my husband and I have just really reflected on a lot recently. So it's interesting you brought it up is like collectively we employ close to 25 people between our clinics and our household team. And it's like, how amazing is that? Never did I ever think I was going to be able to improve that many lives at one time through providing a job, right? That has benefits, that has a great work-life balance. We just hired an executive assistant probably 3 weeks ago. She has literally been the best hire we've had in so long because she's taken so many things off our plates that we didn't realize were holding us back by us being in charge of them. So again, more to your point, bringing somebody on who has that strength that maybe we're lacking has improved our life entirely. And we're so excited. And she is so grateful because this is her first job back into the workforce after having children herself. So she had all of these imposter syndromes popping up where she was like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to want to hire me. And then we come along and we're like, hey, cool. We prioritize family too. Family's super important to us. As long as you help us while we're here, we don't care if you need off at 10 to go to your son's recital. We're completely fine with that. And she's also the one texting me at 9 p.m. when I'm trying to relax and she's still working, right? Because she's like super grateful for the position. She wants to make sure that she's providing value, but it gets to be on her own terms. And I never thought that I was going to be able to provide something like that for somebody. And it's so cool, especially another mom.
Yeah. So when we don't lean into the things that we're good at, we don't shine that light, it's doing everybody else a disservice because you've created this abundance for these 25 people. And like, it's on you. There's a lot of pressure. It's on you, which is also another forcing function for you to just try it harder and do better and make more money so you can offer this to even more people.
Definitely. Yeah. To keep spreading the abundance, right?
Yeah. So tell us about this program that you've put together.
Yeah. So I have a mastermind for health and wellness practitioners. Collectively, we focus on three things: profit, people, prosper. And so by increasing your profitability and getting your business to a super healthy place, you're able to hire the right people, bring them onto your team so that you can start to buy back that time and your life can begin to prosper. And so whatever prosper means to you, right? For me, as you mentioned, I love traveling. And so by me being in that prosper phase, I'm able to work kind of from anywhere. I'm able to have my office operate without me because I've instilled a really amazing team to help carry out my vision. And so through this mastermind that I've created for other health practitioners, that's essentially what we're working on and what we're teaching on. And then I also bring in my advisors that I have that help me build a legacy, that are helping me build wealth. And so one thing interesting enough is that a lot of people in healthcare are in it because they want to make a difference, because they want to help others. But then they're so focused on helping their patient that once they are profitable and their business is to a good place, they're like, okay, what do I do with it now? Like, I have this money in the bank. I don't know what to do with it. And for my husband and I, we very much had to figure that out on our own. So there was a lot of mistakes made, but there's also been a lot of amazing things that we've had access to and opportunities that we've had. And so I want to teach others like, hey, once your business is sustainable and you feel good, you have a little more time, you have some disposable income, here's how you can really set your family up for success.
I love it. And all of this because you've been through it, you've lived it. And now you're just like, I want to teach you all how to do this.
Yeah. And I think that one thing that gets my clients to resonate with me is the fact that I share it all. I share the good, I share the bad. I'm like, hey, we did this investment and it didn't work out. And here's the things that we should have considered along the way. But because we were amateurs, we didn't. Here's the mistakes we won't make in the next investment that we do. And I think my clients really love that about me because I share the wins and I share the losses and I share it all while my toddler is downstairs somewhere screaming in the background.
I know, right? The dog's barking. I mean, that's one good blessing about this is that we are mothers. And if you have to prioritize any role, it's that. It always will be that. But now the blessing of COVID in a way was how, I won't say the pandemic, is how now it just normalized us having a life on the other side of the screen.
Totally, having to do it all.
Yes. And like I've had cameos with my kids all the time on my podcast recordings. Noah's sometimes, actually most of the time, he's not even wearing a shirt. And he'll walk in and he'll be like, what's the password to my iPad thingy? I'm like, dude, I'm recording a show right now. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Hi, my name's Noah. And it's just like, I mean, sometimes it's embarrassing, but people love that because
they love the real life.
Real. It's real. It's like, it's nothing unique. We all go through this. And so you focus on, is it just chiropractors or?
So it's chiropractors, acupuncturists, naturopaths, massage therapy, anybody that's kind of in that holistic health world.
Great. And is it an evergreen program or do you have like launches?
So it is evergreen. You can enroll at any time. And there's a content bank for you that you get access to, as well as the live coaching that's happening every week.
I'm so proud of you too, because I know we were talking a lot about this when we were in Florida. You're like, I have all these people coming in and I don't know what to do. And we're like, oh my gosh, girl, have some structure. And now people are showing up.
Yeah. And it's awesome. Yeah. I've come very far from that Florida trip, but that's the power of being in the room with other women who have done things that you want to achieve as well.
Oh my God. Yes. Let's just go deep on that for one quick sec. Is the power of being in the right room. So when was the Florida trip? That was
the beginning of April.
Okay. So that was almost 2 months ago. It's amazing. They say it's amazing what you can accomplish in a year, but you can't accomplish in a week. I don't even know. I just totally butchered that quote. But in that room, it's like, if you walk into the right room, you're going to surround yourself with people that are a level up from you, maybe 2, and hopefully like 3 or 4 or 5 levels up because they will inspire you. But you have to actually have the courage to get into that room. And you guys created this room. And like at the end of the day, you invited me down to help you guys with some things in your business, but we're really all at like the same level in different industries and we all just want to support each other. So there is such importance in getting into that room.
It's almost like accelerated coaching, I feel like, right? If we're all in different industries, but we can get together and everyone, just like in that, when I was on the hot seat, everybody can see something different about my business that I can't based on their own unique experiences. And I think that's what's so powerful about being in the room with other people who are doing different things, but similar because they have unique insight. And sometimes we just have blinders on when we're in our own business and we're like, this is the only way I could do it. And it was like, or you could do this, or you could do that. There are so many different opportunities available to you. It's just deciding which one. And I have always grown from putting myself in those uncomfortable situations of how I even met the girls. Like that was at a mastermind where we were pretty much the only women in the room. And we were like, okay, this is cool. We're clearly meant to meet, and then it's transpired into this beautiful relationship after that. But it never would have happened if we didn't force ourselves to get in the room.
Yeah. And the room with these people and creating your own circles. Here's what's important is that these have to be women or men, whoever you need. They have to be the people that are also willing to not only see your blind spots, but be telling you about them. Like, girl, no, don't do that. No, don't say that. Or no, you shouldn't be doing that step. Or maybe it's time to fire that person. To be real and not apologetic about it. Just say, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Right. And to be able to be in a room where people can do that, but then also for you not to take offense to it, because it's like, that's what you're here for. You're here to hear different and better ways that you can have your business operating moving forward.
That's it too. These people are good intention. It's like, I want to see you succeed and you won't be successful if you keep doing this or you say that. It's like, no, cut that and then start focusing on this one thing. Because I remember when you were in the hot seat and we're talking about your program and we're all jumping in and it's all from like experiences of we know what's worked in either our programs or other people's programs. And so it was our lived experiences collectively coming to say, here's something maybe we think you're not looking at it. You're like, oh, right. Yes.
Oh,
okay,
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And then it feels good. It feels good to contribute, but also to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beautiful thing, right? It should be a symbiotic relationship like that.
100%. And you can only receive if you give.
Absolutely.
Okay. I love this conversation, but we've got to wrap it up. I have one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Owning your authenticity and showing up fully as you are without judgment from others.
I love it. And you do that.
I try to do that.
Epitome of that. Yeah. All right, Steph. So people can go online to find you. Where can they go?
They can find me at Dr. Steph Wigner on Instagram or stephaniewigner.com is my website.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time. The best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.